Senator Temba, good morning. What a busy day, I suppose, if we have to look at what's happening in these countries. Let's start first with the controversial Omar al-Bashir. Yeah. Years of fighting for him to step down, and then he just seems to have slipped quietly into the night. What changed?
This is quite very interesting. I mean, especially considering that the people who seem to have ousted him are some of his key supporters. The Minister of Defense, who announced his ousting, is also the first vice president of the country and has been a very close ally of Omar al-Bashir. I think what we may be seeing here is a regime change similar to what has happened in Zimbabwe, where really it's only a figurehead that is changed, but the key system still remains in place.
So, I mean, we've had years of calls for him to face up and face the criminal charges of human rights abuses. And are we likely to see that we may finally see him face those charges, or just slip quietly like we've seen the likes of Robert Mugabe, who we don't know where he is, and others who are facing war crimes charges, just kind of fade into the night? Or do you think that his day will come?
I don't think his day will come, especially again it's the regime that has removed him, which its main purpose is to maintain peace. Especially after weeks and months of protest. I think again Omar al-Bashir will probably see after presidential life such as Mubarak of Egypt, who was allowed to go free by the courts there, and basically he himself will probably go out peacefully.
Well, you have to wonder if that might be a kind of deal that has been struck so that he's left without a fight now. Indeed,
that would be it. I mean, as much as there's the ICC warrant out for Omar al-Bashir for his actions, it has been a regime that he had been leading that has committed some of those atrocities. And again, should he go into the ICC, who knows what he may say with regards to the regime who else was involved.
So we've got the military ruling the country for the next 2 years with this. I mean, does this leave the people of Sudan in a better position? Does it leave them in a bit of limbo? Is it the devil you don't know?
It's a challenge that is happening in Africa, and I think in a lot of Arab countries where you've got continued military rule of countries. Yeah. And I think even under Omar al-Bashir, it has been a military state. Omar al-Bashir came in with a military coup himself, an Islamic military coup, and this seems to be the same thing that is happening. So Sudanese might have some reprieve in terms of at least having the key figurehead gone, but they still probably have a long way to fight in terms of achieving true democracy.
I wonder how South Africa feels about this, seeing as we were an avid supporter, friend of Omar al-Bashir, if we remember the incident a couple of years ago. And are we likely a place that he might come for refuge?
I doubt it, and that's a good thing in terms of what our legal systems in South Africa have in place. I think the South African government has learned in terms of what the constitutional. But I think it's not just about what does South Africa think, what does the rest of Africa think? Where's the African Union been with regards of this very interesting couple of weeks in 3 Arab countries? They've been completely silent. It has largely been the international and community that has been commenting and contributing to what the peaceful process going forward will be.
Okay, well, let's see what happens. It's still early days after this. We don't know where he is at the moment. But let's go to Libya. And, I mean, lots of concern. They're fighting, escalating the fight for Tripoli. I mean, we haven't really heard much of Libya over the past couple of years. We knew that, despite the changes we saw happening there, Muammar Gaddafi and what happened to him, we thought things would get better. They seem to have gotten worse after that. So this renewed fighting, or not renewed, but the focus again on fighting there, what are we to gauge from that? What are we seeing happening, and why can't the rest of the world do something about it?
Yeah, I mean, Libya is actually one of the most interesting cases out of these conflicts that are happening on the continent, because you don't simply have 2 rival regimes in Libya, one in Tripoli and one in Tobruk, that are fighting against each other. We've got General Haftar, who's actually supported by a number of international parties, including France, including Russia, the UAE and Saudi Arabia, as well as Egypt, who's advancing and is taken over 2/3 of the country, especially the oil-rich south. So this is something that has to do with the control of Libya's oil wealth, especially in terms of who will be able to negotiate with the rest of the world in terms of who's the key ruler of Libya. I think that's what General Haftar is really trying to do. Although that in Tripoli we've got the UN recognized and internationally recognized of government of Libya, it is quite interesting that you've got international parties like France still supporting General Haftar.
And isn't it funny? I mean, when we've seen things like what happened in Libya, when we saw things like what happened in Iraq, we always wonder who's pulling the strings behind the scenes, who from the Western powers seems to be pulling the strings there, because surely where you expect things to get better and they haven't in such a long time, somebody somewhere is benefiting from this. That's the conspiracy theory out there.
Indeed. I mean, it's the clear thing that has happened, especially in the past 4 years in Libya, after this has been an 8-year process since the ouster of Muammar Gaddafi. But over the past 4 years, there's been a stabilization in the country economically, and they've been able to pump oil. So a lot of Western powers, not just Western powers, other powers, whether it's China and Russia, are happy that the oil economy is going on, and that's the key thing that a lot of interested parties are. And actually, even there's kind of a juxtaposition between two European countries, Italy and France, with major interest. Italy, I mean, as we know, Libya was a former Italian colony, and Italy remains to have major oil interests in Libya. So there is also that kind of power struggle between France and Italy with regards to what's happening in Libya. Funny enough, France was the key party that actually stopped in UN resolution in terms of condemning what has been happening by General Haftar. So that is one thing that needs to be looked at.
Okay, and then just to wrap up, Algeria, better days ahead, you think? I mean, a presidential election due on the 4th of July. I mean, is that a coincidence, I wonder? Independence Day?
Yeah, I think Algeria, out of these two key stories, countries, that is probably the most optimistic, I think. I mean, with the ailing Bouteflika stepping down.
Finally,
after 20 years. It is progressive, and I do think that, again, the fact that you've got some interim government, there might be some progress. The Algerians themselves are still not fully happy, because they do, again, similar to what is happening in Sudan, they still see the same faces of a regime that has oppressed them for 20 years. But I think the key thing about Algeria, which it has an opportunity, is that it has institutional and constitutional structures. If they can ensure that there is some negotiations, some agreements with key constituents in the country, that they might be able to move forward and ensure free and fair elections in July.
Okay, well, we'll watch come closer to July. Thanks very much for that. Just an update on what's happening in key countries on the continent there. That's a political risk analyst, Senator Mbazonke.